Shing shing. Keg Filet TCG. Hey guys, it's Keck here with a promotional video actually for my Patreon. It's a Blackbeard guide. This is actually a short portion of it where we show the curve of the deck and we show it when facing blue Doflamingo. So if you're looking to play Blackbeard in the next set and learning how to play against blue Doflamingo, check out the full guide, but this has the specifics of it on here on YouTube. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into the goo. We're actually going to talk about curve of the deck, and we're going to use the Dofi matchup as an example of that. So with that, what are your thoughts on the Doflamingo matchup?
So, obviously this is like your worst matchup. I think if you go first, you have a chance of winning this. That's granted if they don't see multiple red rock and if they really don't see Graphblade. Graphblade is really good in this deck because if they Graphblade Augur plus Dot Q, that's two cards that you're never getting back. So Graphblade actually hurts Blackbeard more than it hurts Red Rock, I would argue. But yeah, if you go second again, like it's kind of tough because you need to see like Dot Q into Laboon, or you have to see Dot Q Shigan plus an Augur or Laboon. So let's just assume that we're going first. I know this is something that a lot of people have asked because that's basically the biggest question of Blackbeard. Like in a sea of blue Dofi, even if we're favorite into every other deck, can we reliably beat the best deck in the format? And if we can't, then chances are we're just gonna go X2 because we paired into two Dofis and then we go home, even if we win every other matchup.
Okay.
But I think you can, and some people are asking like, okay, like when do you use leader ability? How do you stop the Dofi from just killing you and 7K'ing you every turn? I think if you actually think about it turn for turn, what happens is you actually have a pretty good chance of surviving until turn 5. But then after turn 5, it's kind of like a no man's land where you really need a lot of game sense to figure out what to do. But what I have now is I can actually show because I have my Blackbeard deck with me, and I can show what it's like playing against Blue Dofi. And we can kind of just go through like if you saw an average curve with the Blackbeard deck, following each turn, what your board state would look like, how many cards you would have in your hand, and how many life you would still have.
Okay.
So
it's almost
I'll show like a crazy hand in my opening hand. So for the sake of this video, let's just say you have a crazy starting hand, right? But I think as we've covered in the deck list, even if you don't see this crazy hand, you will see a combination of something like that. And again, I don't think a crazy hand is that impossible to have because what I'll show you is, again, if you open at least one Lafite or one stage and you're opening 5, you'll see 12 cards from the top of your deck. So it's very likely that you'll be able to see what you need almost every single game. But let's say, for sake of example, that you're playing against a Dofi. So I'll use these blue sleeves as like Dofi cards just to mark what's on the board. And then this would be like my hand from my perspective, right?
Okay.
So let's say if you're going first, and let's say so going first you have 5 cards in hand. If you saw either stage or Lafite, you would play it, and then you would just pass turn. So on the Dofi player turn, 2 Dawn. Here, if he plays 2 1-drops, obviously it's a bit problematic because then he gets to swing your Lafite and a Dot Q for free. But on average, they'll only play one thing. And the best card that they can see is they'll play a 1-cost Perona. Simply because it sees 5 cards. So that means that they'll be able to leader effect reliably for 2 turns. And after that, they're always blind after this point. Like you'll never leave them not blind after this.
Okay.
So let's say the Dofi player's done that. They play one cost Perona and they pass it back to you, right? So here you're on 5 cards. So here on 4 Dawn. So I'll
maybe 3, right?
Sorry, on 3 Dawn, yeah. On 3 Dawn, if you start with Lafite, you see 5 cards. But the same thing is, if you had a stage, you would have seen 6 cards by now. So regardless, any one cost, like if you saw Lafayette or Stage, you would see a total of 12 cards from your deck by now.
Sure.
And then you just grab what you need. So in this case, we kind of have almost everything that we need. I'm not in a rush to grab 10 cost Blackbeard again because you don't really need this card as much in this matchup, and you'll see another one. So here you have two choices. You could either grab a Black Hole or an Augur. We'll just grab another Augur since let's say if we didn't have the Augur, we'll grab an Augur, right?
Okay.
So here we have 6 cards in hand. And then we're gonna play a Dock Q. It's pretty important to see Dock Q on this turn.
Yeah.
But even if you don't, you could still see Shigan on the following turn, and then on 7 Dawn you can play Augur plus Dock Q.
Yeah.
So before we move on to the next turn, something that I also want to highlight here is this is an example of what I mean by this deck is a setup deck. So if you have 2 things on the board here, if you were to clear this Perona, your opponent actually has to make a choice between swinging your 1-cost Searcher or swinging your Dock Q here, because they only have 1 attack each turn. So you can imagine that if you have a board with if you get multiple Lafites or Dock Q plus Lafite, and you put your opponent into these situations where no matter what they swing, one thing is staying on the board to generate value, it's just advantageous for you. But since in this hand we don't have a Shigan, what we're not going to do is we're not going to tap Dock Q, and we're going to let the Perona swing into our Lafite. So we're going to lead our ability, and then we'll go down to 4 cards in hand on our turn 2.
Okay.
So on the following turn, the Dofi player is just going to swing. His Perona will clear the Lafite.
Yeah.
And then he'll swing us, and then we're just going to take it. So at this point, we'll have 5 cards in hand. I'm just going to keep this card hidden because I want to show that it could potentially be anything, and then we can move on if we need to see a specific card. And he'll play a 4-drop. So there'll be 2 things on the Dofi's board, and we are at 4 life. Okay. So on 5 Dawn turn, we'll go back up to 6 cards, and then we will play Augur. And what we're going to do is we're going to clear the Perona with our leader, and then we're going to use Dock Q and Augur to KO the 4-cost. So if you can, you want to clear 1-cost units on the board with your leader swing, simply because late game it actually does make a difference when their 1-drops can actually swing you for 7k. So you can play slow, you can clear their small units. You're not in a rush to kill your opponent as Blackbeard. So again, 5 cards in hand, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna discard a card from our hand. And then again, we're back on 4 cards in our hand, and we pass back to our opponent. So here I want to highlight that if the opposing Dofi actually decides to go for life, this is great for you. Because on 6 Dawn, they can only play 1 thing, right? So your Augur plus Dock Q is gonna KO it for sure. So they obviously have to swing your board, and if they swing your board, no matter what, you get a drawback, and they have to make a choice here. They can either swing Dock Q, which is a guaranteed KO, but if you see another Dock Q or another Jack, then their board's getting cleared again. They could instead choose to swing Augur, and if they swing Augur, then you need another Augur or Laboon to pair with Dock Q. But again, because you play 8 copies of Laboon and Augur, it's very interchangeable. And if your stage was still on board, you could just search for another Augur.
Yeah.
So let's say they swing Dock Q, you draw a card, and then they play a 4-drop. So back to you again. And then on your 7 Dawn turn, you have options here, right? If you have another Dock Q, you can play Dock Q, you can play Jack. See, if you don't have this 7-cost Jack, again, we haven't seen a Jesus in our entire deck. We could play this, potentially search for Jesus or another Dock Q, and then we could spend the remaining 6 Dawn playing a Jesus and a Dock Q, and that way your opponent again just has 0 board. But let's say, because we have this hand for the example of this video, we play Jack, we KO whatever is on our opponent's board, and then again we lead our ability. So again, by your 7 Dawn turn, you're still at 4 life. The opposing Dofi cannot swing you, because if they ever swing you and your board stays, the amount of advantage that you get will just be crazy.
Yeah.
So again, here on his 8 Dawn turn, and on an 8 Dawn turn, it's really important for Dofi because what they want to do is they want to swing 5k life, and they want to play 2 4-drops. but because they have to address your board, they have to swing like 8k plus leader ability to hopefully hit something blind. And then they can either go for Jack or they can go for Augur.
Yeah.
If they go for Jack, you just have to 1k guard. If they go for Augur, well, it draws you a card, and then you get to play Augur again next turn, and then you get to do the whole thing, except now they've only played one card on their board, so Augur plus Jack KO something, and you will have a remaining 4 Dawn to either play a Lafayette, either play a 4-cost Jesus, I play a Moncherry, like you can do all sorts of things. And again, when you pass back priority to your opponent, they only have one attack, they have to decide, do I want to swing Augur, do I want to swing Jesus, do I want to swing Jack, do I want to swing Lafayette? And so in this way, that's how you set up this board, by continuously controlling the board, and just setting up bigger and bigger things. Because if they don't, so like let's say on the following turn, if they clear the Augur and they leave Jack on board, then again you can just pair it with another cost reducer. Jack can just be an 8k swing that you can start swinging. Like there's so many things that you can do.
Okay.
Moncherry can grab back Augur, and then you can play Augur.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, it's getting to this point, which is hard, which is what you're showing us. So
exactly. But the key thing to also keep in mind is that bear in mind, like throughout this example, right? Like I've gone from my 3 Dawn turn to my 9 Dawn turn. I'm always like 3 or 4 cards in my hand. Because the moment that I let my opponent play one Jinbei Weevil, like I've lost the game. Like if you let one Jinbei go through, you will immediately lose the game. Because it's almost impossible to come back. Because you just don't have enough Dawn to clear 2 things that early. But the drawback of you being 4 life and 3 cards in hand is if your opponent just clears your board and you can't rebuild, then you know what are you gonna do? You're just a sitting duck until your opponent swings you. Because even if you throw 1 card to block Augur, you only have 2 cards left in hand. And so imagine like if this was a 10-cost Blackbeard, and you had 2 cards in hand. If you play 10-cost Blackbeard and leader ability, now you only have 1 cost in hand. Next turn, if you play 10-cost Blackbeard and leader ability, you have 0 cards in hand.
yeah.
So, yep.
Okay.
Eventually, there needs to come a point in time where you also do need to kind of just slow down and figure out, is there a way that I can force my opponent to also hit me? Or can I risk sacking my board, and then like start taking life?
Yeah.
There are sometimes turns where I have a Jack set up, but I will choose to, maybe I will Shigan something on the board, and then I will play a Jesus, and I will intentionally leave a character on the board.
Yeah.
I will not swing with my Jack, just so I can take cards, more cards to play with. And I know that my 8k Jack can definitely swing over a 5k Jinbei the next turn.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is my general game plan when playing Dofi as well. I actually take the first like 2 damage, and I don't play a rested card, so I have a ginormous hand. But and then obviously a board to deal with. So okay, got it. That is interesting take with it. I think we have a pretty good matchup.
Thanks again for watching through all that. If you can, leave a like, subscribe, and join the Discord if you want to see more about what's going on. Ciao for now.